Great. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the press. My name is John Githongo, Chief Executive Officer of Inuka Kenya Nisisi and part of Africa Elections Watch. Before we read the statement, I'll ask my colleagues on my left and right to introduce themselves as well.
Good morning, I'm Diana Gishengwa of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and we are members of the African Election.
Good morning, Davis Malombe, Acting Executive Director, Kenya Human Rights Commission.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mule Musa, working with the Elections Observation Group.
My name is George Kegoro from the Open Society Initiative for Eastern Africa, and the colleagues that have introduced today are our panelists.
Thank you very much. We'll read the statement and then proceed from there. So this is from the Africa Elections Watch, dated the 19th of January 2021, and it references the massive electoral malpractices and gross human rights violations in Uganda. The world must speak out. Africa Elections Watch is a coalition of organizations and individuals working on the continent's electoral issues, including monitoring, observation, and advocacy. Africa Elections Watch had over 2,000 election monitors in the Uganda general elections. The coalition has documented widespread violations of human rights as well as deliberate disregard of the election process, and I meant human rights abuses. 4 days after the announcement of President Yoweri Museveni's win, we received information of the arbitrary arrest and illegal detention of 223 people, including Bobi Wine, in the post-election period in Uganda. This is in addition to reports of continued abductions and intimidation of opposition agents and human rights defenders. The African Elections Watch is now calling on Africa, and indeed the world, to speak out on the situation in Uganda. The announcement of Yoweri Museveni as the winner of the presidential election comes in the wake of widespread human rights violations that are already documented. President Yoweri Museveni and his administration have, among other things, mismanaged the elections, suppressed the right to freedom of expression through an internet and social media shutdown, used the security forces, including the military deployment, to intimidate members of the political opposition and their supporters ahead of and during the election. They've intimidated the media through state violence and direct intimidation of journalists personally. The state has also suppressed scrutiny and accountability through physical attacks, arrests, and other forms of coercion against opposition party agents, human rights defenders, and election observers. The outcome of this election would surmise that most Ugandans chose Museveni to continue leading the nation. But if that were the case, wouldn't these same Ugandans be on the streets and everywhere else celebrating this win? Would there be need for the military to restrain them? Or isn't that the reason for the massive military deployment and internet shutdown? Is the election result really Is the election really the product of the voice of Ugandans? Who is it that has spoken for them? Election data indicates that about 7 million Ugandans did not vote. The reason for their failure to vote have not been established. However, this is a massive number which speaks volumes. Further, the overall conduct of the electoral process was marred with flaws and calls for accountability. There are reports of delays of delivery of polling materials to several polling stations, reports of party agents being rejected at polling stations and being intimidated in others, failure of the BVV kits leading the Electoral Commission to resort to manual verification, which in itself would invite further scrutiny. Yeah. Okay.
Indeed, there's sufficient reason to poke holes into both the results and the entire process, which is why the African Election Watch is asking regional and international bodies like the African Union, East African Community, the European Union, and the governments, regional and international human rights organizations, to rise up and speak out with and for already suppressed Ugandans. Silence will kill Uganda, and this silence will embolden other leaders, especially in the region, to take a similar route to muzzle the voice of the people and deny them the right to elect their leaders of choice in a free, fair, and just way. This would set a precedent for other countries on the continent to rubbish the will of the people with impunity. And also this also justifies why we are also intervening in Uganda as Kenyans and also as Africans. Thus, action must be taken to ensure justice for Ugandans. Legal action must also entail securing the lives of the people on the forefront of exposing the sham that is this election in Uganda. Our partners in Uganda indicate that the citizens are keen to avoid violence, for which they must be commended and supported. A call for justice should not be viewed as a promotion of violence. The two are not synonymous. Reports of people in parts of Uganda protesting the result cannot be ignored. If the people felt that they could be heard, they would not resort to protest. And since Museveni has refused to listen to them, it would be tragic for the world to side with him at the expense of the people of Uganda. The question now would be, is the world witnessing the reincarnation of Idi Amin Dada? Amin's rule of terror in Uganda was between 1971 and 1979 and was characterized by brutality at many levels. Extrajudicial killings, persecution of political and ethnic groups, intimidation of real or perceived critics, among other rapid human rights violations were experienced. The blatant disregard and indeed active muzzling of the people's voices would suggest that it is. The 2021 electoral process has reduced Ugandans to helplessness and the fear, and Museveni's action obviously seek to legitimize an illegal and flawed electoral process. While the announcement of Museveni's win has been acknowledged in some quarters and by some governments, we must reiterate our call around the following lines. First, to the African unity, to urgently convene talks to restore democratic governance to Uganda, address the growing risk of contention in the Great Lakes and the Horn of Africa region. At this rate, there will be no silencing of the guns in our continent and especially in our region. Two, to the United Nations, we call on you to undertake measures that allow for a transparent audit of the electoral processes and accountability for any electoral misconduct.
I'm just continuing from where Malombe has left. So 3, to the world leaders to demand for thorough and independent investigations against Uganda authorities for mass human rights violation and gross election offenses during the electioneering period, and ensure that the perpetrators are held accountable and that victims are granted access to justice and effective remedies. World leaders must now look beyond powerful national, political, diplomatic, vested interests and take action against Ugandan authorities to ensure justice for Ugandans. To the governments of Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, South Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, we urge you to keep your borders open for any persons in Uganda who will be seeking asylum during this period, in due observance of your international human rights obligation to grant asylum. As civil society organizations from across Africa, we demand immediate and unconditional release of all the 223 detainees and unfettered access to family, legal representation, medical support, and essential supplies. Further, number 5, we demand full reinstatement of and access to communication channels of all persons illegally detained and held incommunicado. To all Ugandans, we honor your courage, your resilience, and stand with you in seeking justice and sustainable peace. This statement has been signed by Inuka Kenya Nisisi, Kenya Human Rights Commission, Journalists for Peace, Pan-African Lawyers Association, the Orecha Collective, Haki Africa, Muslims for Human Rights, Amnesty International, Article 19 East Africa, and the Elections Observation Group. We thank you.
Introduce yourself when you ask a question.
Take a number of questions.
Okay. Maybe we can take, because it's hot in the sun, why don't we take a round of questions and then answer them? Is that okay? I know you also have to rush back to the newsrooms. Maybe we can take a couple more questions. We've gotten the first one, which I think Diana will handle. Any other question? Okay. Then Diana, let me let you sit here.
Thank you very much. The profile of the 223 reported detainees is mainly people who are supporters of the opposition parties. They do not hold any positions of leadership. They are people running small businesses in both the urban areas of Uganda, and there are reports of similar arrests. They are the mobilizers on the ground, and we have a few, other than Bobi Wine, then a number of MPs who have been arrested. This number, we must say, is the number that we have gotten information from our colleagues in Uganda during this short period when communication has resumed. We anticipate that the numbers are much higher than this because they are getting very, very, very many incidences of many people who cannot be traced in their ordinary areas of residence and business. I hope that clarifies the issue. Those are the detainees we have, and we plan to continue documenting all illegal arrests during this particular process, and we'll keep on briefing you on a regular basis.
My question is on what's happening in the country. It's contrary to what we have talked about in Uganda, because I understand we must talk about electoral. There's a political debate going on in the country about dynasty and the hustler nation. I'd like to understand from the civil society, because there are conflicting information and that others are inciting, others are trying to mobilize those who oppressed. What is your take about that debate of hustler and dynasty? Does it pose any threat in our national security? Then the last question, we had the president saying his show and somehow say we can adapt the rotational presidents. The president is the symbol of national unity. Does that statement contradict what the Constitution says? And he said about being in control. But yesterday when we were speaking with some of the financial statements, he said the country is losing at least 2 billion a day. And some of the people in his government, is he in control?
Thank you very much for those questions, but we will kindly request members of the media that this is an area that the Kenyan civil society is well seized, and we will organize a separate forum to delve into these issues. Thank you very much.
What did you say your name was?
My name is Bernard Kitao.
From? Thank you. Is there any other question?
Relating to Uganda.
Just a clarification. This is Menza from KBC. You say that you want the regional international to intervene in the situation. What exactly do you expect to see? What exactly are the interventions that you would like to see?
We haven't selected recent.
George, you want to take it? Okay. We live in a global world, and these are our neighbors. We have any problems in any neighboring country affect the neighbors and the entire region, and sometimes the entire globe. Speaking from Kenya, and Africa Elections Watch has members from countries that have faced situations similar to Uganda. Kenya was able to benefit from regional and international support when we were at our lowest in 2007. So such processes of regional dialogue or national process, cooperation and collaboration of regional actors and international actors in trying to bring out the best out of Uganda is what we are encouraging all governments to embrace and try play their role. In addition to that, we will urge them, in case that is not possible, to also look at all regional and international mechanisms of accountability and justice as possible avenues for redress on the issues of Uganda. But ultimately, regional dialogue, mediation, and an open conversation. Okay. So thank you very much for making time. We'll be circulating the written statement, and we will keep you posted on the updates as we receive them from the team in Uganda. Thank you.